So hi and welcome to the show. And today I have with me the wonderful Rubaya Pirzada. Welcome, Rubaya.
Hi there.
And we're going to be talking about all things Sufi. Tell me about your personal journey in Sufi music.
So, Sufism is one of the theologies or practices. And Sufism or Tasawwuf, the word Sufi comes from Suf, which means blanket. And the dervish used to cover themselves in blanket in even places like a desert. And Tasawwuf, which is a way of like for them to strive by killing their desire to stay cool in a warm environment.
Right. Okay.
So it was kind of a practice to tame their desires, just like monks have different practices. So Sufis have different practices, and music is a form of practice. It had become a form of practice for them to connect to the divine energy. But Sufism and Tasawwuf previously was called Tazkiyah. It is like an inner circle of Islam in particular. So you practice this kind of spiritual practice with Islamic teachings in particular, because it aligns with Islamic teachings.
Right. What brought you to Sufi music?
So Sufi music, my music in particular, why I chose this genre is because I was always drawn to the spiritual practices from different backgrounds, and then I just came across this genre of music, which I thought was amazing because it's very healing, and the type of music that I work on, it's very healing, and then also it gives you an aspect of unity, and you connect with people from different backgrounds, and the most beautiful element that I found through this music is that no matter who you are, because every person has got a soul, they get connected to the music. So hence here I am.
Right. So it's that spiritual journey almost from what you've said, the connection with
Yes.
With the earth, with other people. Tell me more about that.
So I connect with the divine, with the universe, with the elements of the universe, with human beings who are part of this universe through my music. That's how I see my music. For myself, music is a form of solace.
Yeah.
It's a form of connection to other people and bringing tranquility in a world which is full of chaos at the moment.
Well, it certainly is. There's plenty of chaos that needs calming down, and your music is one of the ways that that we can achieve that. So let's just jump right into hearing you playing one of your wonderful tracks.
O mankind, indeed, we created you from a male and a female, and made you into peoples and tribes, so that you may get to know each other.
रसूल सुनायो क़ाल रसूल सुनायो क़दराने फरमायो नूर मोहम्मद आयो दो जग उजाला छायो रैन जाई असरा जाए पिया जो अफ़सां दो जग उजाला छायो क़दराने फरमायो दादा दे दादा दे दारा दिल दरदानी हो दारा दिल दारा दिल दरदानी मन को
So, Rubaya, can you tell me about your own personal journey into the world of Sufi music?
This kind of music is, a lot of it comes from Middle East and East, particularly within the Pakistani or South Asian communities. It's kind of embedded in the Indian classical ragas or Arabic music, Arabic classical music. But because I live here, this is where I belong. So my music kind of represents who I am. It's got my heritage in there, and at the same time, it's got the heritage of myself being a British person, you know. So I take influences from English folk music as well, like Gaelic music and Celtic music. And then also I really like jazz and blues as genres, because I think they're very soulful genres, particularly blues. So I think my work sort of represents who I am more than the actual Sufi genre, let's put it that way.
Because your work is actually, could I describe it as a fusion, or definitely inspired by a number of different genres that you've named there on the folk music side, and you've mentioned to me earlier about traditional Indian music scales as well, called raga, because I thought that you were saying reggae to start with, but reggae is part of it as well, probably.
Yes, yeah.
So it's really bringing everything together.
Yes. So for myself, Sufi soulful music is anything which is with meaning, anything that you speak about which has got a meaning to it, which has got a deep connection to the universe, to human emotions, is Sufi, which could be different to how other people see the Sufi music.
Right.
So again, my work sort of depicts what I am, who I am as an artist and as a human being, and how the world, the universe influences me. So the songs, the notes, even if I'm doing a cover, you know, it all comes from who I am.
Sure, and I think that's the connection, isn't it, to, say, traditional Gaelic music, where it's often about the struggles that people have had, which have made them into the people that they are now, and that sort of sense of identity.
Yes.
So we've talked about the impact of Sufi music on the world. Tell me a little bit about its history, because I think that it's inspired, as you've said, by lots of different genres of music through the ages. Explain a bit more about that.
So generally, if you ask Sufi, if you say Sufi music to a Middle Eastern person, it could be something like a nasheed with a daf, with a oud, you know, as instruments, or a qanun or something of that sort. And if you ask a person from South Asian heritage, it could be something like qawwali, because qawwali is a Sufi genre. Sama existed. It has existed. It has always existed. Sama means musical gathering, which has always existed in all the cultures of the world. But Sufi music in particular is a sort of music which is devotional music, is devotional to your soul and the practices of the soul. So Sufis have various tools that they do their spiritual practices with, and kind of connect with the universe, connect with people. And the word Sufi comes from suf, which is blanket. And Sufis used to wear these blankets even in the deserts to kill their desire to feel cold. That's a spiritual practice.
Right.
Just like monks have got different practices.
Right.
But mysticism exists in all the cultures of the world. Sufism in particular is a practice of Islamic theology. So Sufis are, you can say, they're the Muslim monks. So that's how probably I would identify them. But then again, many people would differ on it. But that's how I understand it. Also, the fact that tasawwuf, tazkiyah, or Sufism, it's the correction of your intent, is the knowledge of the correction of your intent. So what is your intention behind music? What is your intention behind doing a podcast? What is your intention behind having a certain attire? What is your intention behind you speaking or approaching a certain person? So always rectifying your intention to bring it to the best practices which are beneficial for humanity is tasawwuf, is Sufism.
Is it around thinking how you actually would like to approach your life?
So on a personal level, I do practice Sufism. So because I follow the theology of Sufism, hence that's another reason I've chosen this genre of Sufi music. And also the fact that, the intention behind my work is that going to spaces where people haven't seen somebody like myself, and also making them sort of aware that, in our differences, there is beauty and there is similarity within the differences. Yes. So we're all a big family, we're all humanity in the end, with different race, creeds, beliefs, and different cultures, but in the end, we're all human beings. So I personally really like that beautiful message.
Well, I think that's a wonderful message to share. So let's listen to another one of your tracks.
So this song is called New Colors. It's a particular song by Amir Khusro. I've changed the composition slightly so people can enjoy it a bit more.
गोरी सोवे सेज पर मुख पर डारे खेस चल खुसरो घर अपने कौन है चाहो दे
it's so important, isn't it, nowadays, that with all of the division that we have now. So what that says to me is that the music is your personal way of contributing to a stronger humanity. So your music is really all about a message of hope.
Absolutely. I think because I've always had, I've always kind of struggled connecting with people because as a child growing up, I had social anxiety, so I would always hide away in a room and I wouldn't come out of it. And then music became as a form of expression. It was photography first, and then music. I started doing music about 6 years ago. So I wasn't learnt in music, I wasn't trained in music, so I bought a guitar, trained myself, and here I am. But I think for myself, I want to be a sort of person who sort of connects with people at the same time with the type of things that we are experiencing in present day and age, and also bring people from different backgrounds to come and join me in the music, like musicians from other backgrounds.
Sure.
An example is my own band, which is called the Seekers of Lumiere.
The Seekers of Lumiere.
Yes.
Okay.
The Seekers of Light,
Yes.
in French. And then we've got Richard Kensington, who's a percussion player, and then we've got Dominic. He's a fantastic jazz pianist, who's from Belgium, Brussels, and is a conservatoire musician.
Wow.
Then we've got Yasser, who plays with us. He's a Sudanese guitarist, quite well known in Sudan. Then we've also got Ephraim Luembe, who's got whose parents are Nigerian, but he is from Wales. So I think there is a, and then there's myself, of course. So the pieces are generally chosen by myself. How I describe it to them is that I sort of translate it to them, and then I explain the expression of the song.
Right.
That this is what the expression is, or if it's in an Indian classical form, then this is what the raga is, this is how we use the raga, these are the timings of the raga, and this is how we sort of all come together. But Richard is playing himself as a musician, what he can contribute to this music. Dominic is being himself. Yasser is playing what he feels like that fits with this music. And then Ephraim is going to play whatever he seems fit. So it becomes like a very beautiful union between different cultures, but yet music has no language. Music within itself is a language.
Absolutely.
So there's that factor of unity that I enjoy and love the most.
We were talking there about the contribution of music to hope as well, and I wondered what you made of the world that we live in today, especially since you are a brown person like myself living in the UK at a time when last summer we had, those awful riots and so on, and this year there's still a lot of tension that's certainly stirring behind the scenes. So how does that inspire you to do more with both your faith and your music, to lift you through this time? And what are you hoping to contribute to changing things? In such a divided world, music brings us hope, and from what you're saying, it sounds as if Sufi music in particular brings us hope. What is your hope for your music and your art in today's difficult world?
Well, I think it's the divide of us and them.
Sure.
Which benefits only like 1% of the world's population. So it doesn't really benefit anybody, I mean, for me, the biggest thing that I say to people is that COVID is a virus, and it did not discriminate. You see, so if a virus which is not as intelligent as a human being, does not know how to discriminate. How can we, as very intelligent beings, discriminate each other, speak of each other as like some of us, we're even not human beings, being called animals, being called human animals.
Yeah.
And the way we hurt each other through our speech, through our actions. I mean, we are ruthless beings. We are very angry towards each other. And there is so much in this universe, in this world, that we can actually share with each other rather than, grabbing it off each other and, killing each other over it. So I think there is so much more to mankind, and unless we're not willing to explore, we won't be able to find any peace. And peace is the ultimate goal.
Right.
So for myself, I think my music, because my music is heard by different traditions, different kind of people from different backgrounds, that gives them a sort of a space to come together.
Absolutely.
and give them a safe space to talk, to speak to each other, to see each other, to come across each other's cultures, and particularly with a band, because people are from different backgrounds, physically apparent, so that brings them even more closer, that, okay, did you hear that note, or did you hear that genre within this genre? So I think it opens up that dialogue, which is fantastic.
Because it is a very common language, isn't it, music? In fact, you don't have to have another language, you can just absorb the power of the music.
Absolutely. I think that's to do with any creative practice. I think creativity is the only thing, for myself at least, which can take mankind out of our day-to-day mundane life and actually make us think about bigger things, things which are far more superior than us, than our selfish desires and needs, and also for us to consider the rest of mankind.
Yes, I couldn't agree more, Rubaya. So let's listen to another one of the tracks that particularly thinks about hope and the way that different people can join together to eradicate hate.
So this track is called Story of Man, and it's inspired by the factor that as human beings we like judging each other. So it's talking about people finding different ways of staying at peace. So it's got the mantra of Om in there, and it's talking about human beings and their nature.
There is a flame burden my soul. There's a cold freezing my soul. This is the story of man, story of life. This is the story of truth, desire. Burning, 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 my soul.
So we started off by talking around about the links to different types of music, Rubaya, and also the different cultures involved. And Sufi music has got a very long history, and it's in itself it's been inspired by lots of classical music as well and forms. Explain a bit more about that.
So, if I speak about Sufi music in particular, strictly speaking, then the first masterpiece comes from the time when Prophet Muhammad enters Medina, and the little girls of Medina are singing Tala al Badru alayna, oh, the white moon rose over us.
Right.
So, so for the first musical piece comes from Medina about 1500 years ago. And then we've got very good traditions about Hassan bin Sabit, who was called the poet of Islam. And then he wrote many good poems about the Islamic cultures. And there's one in particular which is quite famous, which is called Cameroon, that the beautiful face of Prophet is like a white moon. And then there's a lot of talk about the beauty of Prophet Muhammad as a man, and his character, and also the way he conducted himself in his community, and also how merciful, how patient he was with his foes and friends, and family alike. So there is that type of poetry which you can find, and then you can also find something like Imam Ali speaking about Fatima when Fatima passes away, and he's standing on her grave and he's saying that, oh my beloved, that you're gone and I'll miss you. And so there is this, Arabs had this huge culture of poetry and spoken literature. They were not into writing stuff, but they had this tradition of memorizing things. So it goes all the way back. That's where the Islamic or Sufi, the tradition of music comes from, where it begins. But then every culture had their own kind of twist to it. So there are fantastic, African Sufi musicians. They've got their own kind of music, and they play their own instruments like kora and bottom drums and that kind of African drums. And then you've got daf, which is very Arabic, and then you've got oud and all of these beautiful instruments from Middle East and Iran, like Iranian saz. You've got santur. So you've got these beautiful instruments. And then when it comes to Indo-Pak subcontinent, you've got tabla, and you've got something like sitar or tanpura, something of this sort. So it depends on the time and age where people were, and it just progressed. So within the Islamic tradition, within the Sufi Islamic tradition, it is very rich culture within itself. However, saying that, mystic world or mysticism has always had music, So I think that's the most important bit for me as a musician. That how do I connect with other people from other spiritual practices, and to be able to convey the same message of love, kindness, peace, and unity, and then bring everything together into one piece.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, let's crystallize that into your last track that you're going to be playing for us today, which I believe is very much along those lines. So let's listen to that.
Yeah, sure.
There was a secret chord that David played, and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you?
So how do you personally feel about taking forward your art as a Sufi female performer rather than male, which it's traditionally been?
So Qawwali in particular is a genre which is supposed to be only men performing. There are female artists across the world. I'm not the only one.
Yeah, great.
But I think from the backgrounds that I come from, it's very, very difficult for somebody like myself to be able to pursue this. And I had a lot of sacrifices that came along the way, a lot of discrimination as well, based on the fact that I was a woman, a Muslim woman, and then being able to perform in front of men. Traditional with Islamic tradition, there are a form of opinions that clashes with that kind of performance. Saying that, I think there is a need for it, and I think men and women, they both have their roles. So excluding women from the public sphere is not really beneficial for the communities. So I think they should allow women, young girls, they should ask them to explore this field of creativity. And fair enough, if they don't want them to perform in front of men, they can always perform in women gatherings.
Yeah.
But I think exploring your own creativity is very important for every single human being, regardless of who you are. And even if you just want to do it for yourself, just do it, because I think it'll transform you as a human being. I'm not saying just music. It could be painting, it could be writing, it could be poetry, it could be podcasts, it could be anything.
Absolutely.
But I think, given the time and the day and age, I think all of us, particularly people from immigrant backgrounds, I think it's very important that we engage with wider communities in the West to let them know that we are part of them and we are here for the better good. And let's all work together towards the betterment of humanity.
Yeah. What a wonderful message, and I think we'll end on that message because I can't really think of anything that's more important than that. Thank you, Rubaya.
Thank you very much.
Just to say also that Rubaya has got a new EP out very soon in April, and it's called The Red Falcon. And you can also follow her on all major social media. So, yeah, don't forget to do that.